Hey guys, Sam here with BatchStovez, and well, I finally finished the lid for the percolator and got something figured out for that, and this is what I've got. I basically wanted to try to keep the same lid that I already have on the beer can replacement cook pot. So what I did was I just kind of reshaped it and domed it. And the reason for this is so that when the percolator perks and the coffee hits the lid, it'll kind of run down and spread out over the lid. I think they call this a separator or a spreader, just to spread the liquid over the coffee granules. Now the basket, originally I thought, well, I'll just spin the basket, but to try to keep the cost down, I thought I would try to repurpose something that I already had. And what I found was an aluminum water bottle works great for this. It's a perfect size for a basket. And so I just had to make the lid. And so I spun the lid and I just used the bottom of a water bottle for the basket and put the holes in there. The stem is just an aluminum tube, and the bottom is a soda can, and I just cut it out, and it's permanently attached to the stem so that it'll give it some support. Now the basket and the stem weigh 36.1 grams or 1.27 ounces. And the lid, the modified lid, weighs about a half an ounce, 0.56. So the whole total setup, 1.83 ounces or 52 grams. And this is one of my older cook pots. Let's see where we're at. The whole total little setup here, 121 grams. Or 4.27 ounces. So 4.3 ounces or 121 grams. That's not bad for a percolator. Now one thing I wanted to point out with the percolator is I tried different stoves to see how it would perform. The best results are with a stove that you can control the temperature, turn it down a little bit, and also a center burner. The way the stem is created, you want the bubbles to form underneath the cone here so that they'll go up the stem and actually percolate. I tried it with the bottle stove, and the problem with that is because the pot diameter and the stove diameter are very close, the flames tend to just go up the sides of the pot, and after the water starts to boil, the bubbles are formed on the perimeter of the pot and not very many in the center. Now it will percolate, it just doesn't percolate real well, and also this burns too hot. It's high the whole time, and what you want is you want to bring the temperature of the water up to a boil, but then you want to let it kind of simmer and percolate. You don't want a real heavy roaring boil. You just want a slow boil. And the adjustable stove is the one I've been getting the best results with, and it works really well. I can set the pot on and control the temperature. Once it comes up to boil, I can close it off a little bit, and it'll sit there and percolate. But if you're interested in a percolator, send me a personal message on YouTube or email me through my website. You probably won't carry this if you're doing some miles, putting a lot of miles on, but if you're just doing an overnight trip or a weekend trip and you're not going too far out in the woods, this is a nice little setup, and it'll give you some good coffee in the morning. I've made several pots, I guess, of coffee with this. It holds about 14 ounces of liquid, percolates about 14 ounces of coffee, and which is about 2 tablespoons of coffee in there. That's what I found works real well. You can see it percolating, and the glass top I made loose so that it would kind of wiggle around, and that does a couple of things. It lets a little steam vent out, and it also makes a little noise so you can kind of hear it percolating, and it lets you know it's working. Plus you can see what's going on, and you can see how dark the coffee's getting. It takes 5 to 7 minutes after it starts percolating for the coffee to be done, and it turns out great every time. If the heat's too high, it will spill over a little bit, but with my adjustable stove, I've been able to dial the temperature down to low, and it just gives me a nice percolation. And you'll see in this video what I'm talking about. Okay, so I have my stove on, my water on the stove, and I have my coffee in my basket, and it's probably maybe halfway. Now, one thing I found out that I can only make a cup. This is my coffee cup that I normally take on the trail. It's very lightweight and cheap. If it breaks or if I lose it, I'm not worried about it. And so I just filled this up with water and then put it in the pot. And I'm thinking it's at least 12-14 ounces. I've never really measured it, so I'm not sure. But it's a good size cup of coffee. And what I'm going to do is just wait and get this water up to temp. I'm going to go ahead and drop my basket in there. And this basket seems to work pretty good, and I don't get a lot of granules down in the coffee, at least not yet. So that's a good thing. So I'm going to drop the basket down in there, and just kind of center it in there best you can. Doesn't have to be perfect. And we'll get this water up to boil, and then we'll come back. Okay, so we've brought it up to a boil, and you can see it's percolating. Now I don't have a real big flame under here. Let me show you. The adjustable flame stove it's got a small flame under there, and it's got a little breeze coming through the window. I've got the window open here in the shop. You can see it whisking around, and you can hear it and see it percolate. I'm not a professional coffee percolator, so you guys can give me some tips on how long to let this go, but I'm thinking around 10 minutes or so. I just kind of look at the color, and when it looks about right, I stop it. I know if you let it go too long, it'll start getting bitter, and I don't want that. So I'm thinking around 5-10 minutes. I mean, around 10 minutes, somewhere around in there, percolating. So I've got the stove on low, and what I found out is you need a stove that is more of a center burner when you're doing this coffee for some reason. The side burners, the flames only kind of hit the side bottom of the pot around the edge, and because of the stem and the funnel, you really need bubbles to be generated right underneath the center for it to work real well. It's still percolated with the side burner, but just not as good as it does with the center burner. And I really like the adjustability, because if you've got the flame too high, the top will be flopping around. I've noticed that some of the videos from NC Hiker 1970 and Digitizer 101, and some of the others videos that I saw, that the top was pressed. It was like a press, not a press fit, but it slid down inside the, like a regular coffee pot. It slid down inside the canister, or the in NC Hiker's case, he just used the lid for the tin that he was using, and it kind of was pushed on, and so that kept the lid on. But I found that you really don't need that as long as you've got a stove that will just simmer. I've domed the top, as you can see. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit. You can kind of see I've domed the top a little bit, and what that does is it lets the coffee that hits the top run down to this edge and fall back in the pot and get caught in the separator on top of the basket. And the glass percolator handle top is loose. I mean, it won't come out, but it's not a tight fit. It's not got a seal on it or anything, and so it kind of flops around, and it's gives you a verbal indication that it's perking. So if you're busy doing something, you can kind of hear it making this noise, and you'll know that your coffee's perking. But you can see it's starting to really get dark here. We've been going about 5 minutes or so, and like I said, I'm not really sure. You can see the flame here. You can see the flame's just kind of low, and I've got the vents closed on the stove. Now you can use any kind of stove that you want. You can use a remote fueled stove, but this is my go-to stove, favorite stove for baking, simmering, or any of that kind of stuff. And for those of you guys who follow my videos, you already know that. Well, you can see the color now is getting really good, and I'm thinking we're about done. So let me put this stove out, and we'll let it sit for a minute. You can see it's loose, and I like that. I like that it flops around and makes that noise and gives you that indication that it's working. But so far it's been percolating pretty good. This is glass, so it is still kind of hot. What I wanted to show you, basically I just domed the lid. You can kind of see the dome there, and that way I didn't need to make a different lid. I could just use the same lid. This was just something that a couple of people had asked me about, and I've been asked this several times over the last couple of years about making a percolator. So there are definitely a few people out there that really enjoy their coffee, so I kind of thought that I would just give it a try and see what I could come up with. And so this is what I got, and it works pretty well. And let's pour it off in the cup here. Hopefully you can see this. Whew, it's hot, 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 hot. And let me see. There's not really anything in there. No grains or no coffee grounds left in there, so that's pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. I think the whole setup I'm going to offer for $40, and that'll include the shipping. If you're interested, of course, lower 48 states. If you're interested in this, it'll be $40 shipped. The whole complete setup as you see it right here. And if you already have a pot and you just need the lid and the internals, those will be say $22 shipped. I don't know if it's something I'm going to add to the website. We'll see what kind of response we get from this video, and then I'll go from there. Appreciate you watching. Stop by and visit us at www.BatchStovez.com. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Have a great day.